You murdered me. The crystal wine glass shattered against the marble floor of the Ogunlai mansion as Zainab Ogunlai's birthday celebration came to a screeching halt. Every head turned toward the entrance where a stunningly dressed woman in traditional Ankara stood, her eyes blazing with 20 years of buried rage. Mrs. Folake Ogunlai, the celebrated stepmother, philanthropist, and pillar of Lagos society, went pale as death itself. I don't know what you're talking about, Folake stammered, her hand trembling as she set down her champagne flute. Liar! The woman strode forward, her heels clicking against the floor like gunshots. Third Mainland Bridge. July 15, 2005. You pushed a 13-year-old girl into the river and watched her drown. That girl was me, Yetunde Ogunlai, your husband's daughter. And I've come back from the dead to destroy you. The room erupted in gasps and whispers. Folake's perfect world was crumbling in real time. Channel intro. Hello guys. Welcome to Stories by Stoner. Thank you so much for your incredible support. You keep this channel alive. Before we dive into today's explosive story, drop a comment below and tell us, where are you watching from? Now, let's get into this shocking tale of betrayal and revenge. The story continues. 20 years ago, Folake thought she had gotten away with murder. She had married Chief Biodun Ogunlai 6 months after his first wife died in a mysterious car accident. His daughter, 13-year-old Yetunde, was the only obstacle standing between Folake and complete control of the Ogunlai fortune. On that humid July evening, Folake had lured Yetunde to Third Mainland Bridge under the pretense of buying her new school uniforms. But instead of shopping, Folake had parked the car at a deserted spot, dragged the terrified girl to the railing, and pushed her into the churning waters below. She ran away, Folake had told Chief Ogunlai that night, tears streaming down her face. I tried to stop her, but she said she hated me and wanted to leave. I've searched everywhere. The police investigation went nowhere. After 6 months, Yetunde was declared dead. Chief Ogunlai, heartbroken and manipulated by his new wife's crocodile tears, stopped searching. Folake gave birth to her own daughter, Zainab, 9 months later. For 20 years, she lived in luxury, respected and admired. Until tonight. Security. Remove this mad woman from my house. Folake shrieked, but her voice cracked with fear. I have proof, Yetunde said calmly, pulling out her phone. Your confession is already uploaded to a private cloud. One word from me, and it goes viral across every news platform in Nigeria. Lagos Police Commissioner is a family friend now. Funny how life works. Chief Ogunlai, now elderly and seated in his wheelchair, stared at the young woman with tears streaming down his weathered face. Yetunde? My daughter. My God. Is it really you? Yes, Papa. Yetunde's voice softened as she approached her father. A fisherman named Uncle Musa saved me that night. He saw everything. He pulled me from the water, took me to his village in Badagry, and raised me as his own. He wanted to report Folake immediately, but I was traumatized, barely conscious for weeks. By the time I recovered, you had already declared me dead. Uncle Musa decided to keep me hidden until I was strong enough to fight back. This is ridiculous. She's an imposter trying to steal our family's wealth. Folake lunged forward, but Zainab grabbed her mother's arm. Mama, wait, Zainab whispered, her face pale. Look at her eyes. Look at the birthmark on her neck. I've seen Papa's old photos. This woman looks exactly like his first wife. Yetunde smiled coldly. DNA test. Tomorrow morning. Let the truth speak. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think Folake will do next? Run, fight, or confess? The Lagos University Teaching Hospital's private DNA testing suite felt like a courtroom. Yetunde sat on one side of the sterile white room, her posture regal and unbothered. Across from her, Folake fidgeted nervously, her designer handbag clutched like a shield. Chief Ogunlai's wheelchair was positioned between them, his lawyer and family doctor flanking him protectively. This is a waste of time and money, Folake hissed, but her voice lacked conviction. When this test proves she's a fraud, I'm suing her for defamation and emotional distress. Yetunde didn't even glance her way. She was texting Uncle Musa. Almost done here. Thank you for everything. Justice is coming. The doctor entered with a sealed envelope. The room fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Chief Ogunlai, Dr. Bonu began professionally. The results are conclusive. Based on the genetic markers analyzed, there is a 99.97% probability that Miss Yetunde Ogunlai is your biological daughter. Chief Ogunlai's body shook with sobs. My daughter. My baby girl. You're alive. Folake shot to her feet so violently her chair toppled backward. This is impossible. You people were bribed. That test is fake. Mother, sit down, Zainab said quietly, her voice trembling. It's over. Shut up, Zainab. You don't understand what this means for us. Folake's mask of sophistication had completely shattered, revealing the desperate woman beneath. Yetunde finally looked at her stepmother. What it means, Folake, is that attempted murder has no statute of limitations in Nigeria. What it means is that Uncle Musa kept the clothes I wore that night, still stained with your fingerprints from when you grabbed me. What it means is that 3 witnesses saw your car parked on 3rd Mainland Bridge that evening, and one of them photographed your license plate. Uncle Musa has been collecting evidence for 20 years, waiting for me to be ready. The color drained completely from Folake's face. Papa, Yetunde turned to her father, her voice softening with genuine emotion. I don't want your money. I don't want the mansion or the companies. I built my own life. Uncle Musa helped me get educated, I studied abroad, I started my own tech business in Ghana. I came back for 2 reasons only: justice for what she did to me, and justice for what she did to my mother. Chief Ogunlai's eyes widened. Your mother? But the police said it was an accident. It was never an accident, Yetunde interrupted. Mama's car brakes were tampered with. I was 9 years old, but I remember Mama telling you she felt unsafe around that woman from your office. Folake had been your secretary for only 3 months before Mama died. 3 months, Papa. Then 6 months later, you married her. Don't you find that timing suspicious? You have no proof of that. Folake screamed, but her panic was palpable. Yetunde pulled out a tablet and played a video. The room watched in horror as a young mechanic appeared on screen, his face aged but recognizable. My name is Emmanuel Okafor. In September 2004, Mrs. Folake Ogunlai paid me 2 million naira to cut the brake lines on Mrs. Oluwaseun Ogunlai's vehicle. I was young, broke, and stupid. I've lived with this guilt for 20 years. I'm ready to testify in court. Chief Ogunlai's anguished cry filled the room. Oluwaseun, my Oluwaseun. What have you done, Folake? What have you done? Folake backed toward the door, her eyes wild. You can't prove anything. That mechanic is lying for money. This girl is manipulating all of you. The police are already outside, Yetunde said calmly. I called them before we came in. Detective Inspector Olamide Taiwo is handling the case personally. She's a woman who doesn't tolerate men, or women, who harm children. Right on cue, the door opened. 2 female police officers entered, their expressions professional but grim. Mrs. Folake Ogunlai, Inspector Taiwo said, her voice carrying the weight of authority. You are under arrest for the attempted murder of Yetunde Ogunlai and suspicion of murder in the death of Mrs. Oluwaseun Ogunlai. You have the right to remain silent, but anything you say can and will be used against you in court. No. Biodun, stop them. I'm your wife. Tell them this is all lies. Folake struggled as the officers handcuffed her, her designer dress wrinkling, her perfect makeup running with desperate tears. Chief Ogunlai turned his wheelchair away from her. I don't know you. I never knew you. As Folake was dragged from the room, still screaming her innocence, Zainab stood frozen in shock. The 25-year-old woman she'd called mother her entire life was a murderer. The sister she'd been told was dead had returned as her family's destroyer, or savior, depending on perspective. Yetunde approached Zainab carefully. I know this is overwhelming. You're innocent in all of this. You were born into her lies, just like I was pushed into that river because of them. My whole life is a lie, Zainab whispered, tears streaming down her face. Everything I thought I knew. The truth is painful, Yetunde acknowledged, but it's also freedom. We're sisters, Zainab. Half-sisters, but still blood. We don't have to be enemies. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. Will Zainab accept Yetunde, or will she stand by her mother? Comment your predictions below. The Ogunlai mansion felt like a tomb. 3 days had passed since Folake's arrest, and the media frenzy was relentless. News vans camped outside the gates, reporters shouting questions at anyone who entered or left. Headlines screamed across every Nigerian newspaper and blog. Society wife arrested for murder. The woman who came back from the dead. Third mainland bridge mystery solved after 20 years. Inside the master bedroom, Chief Ogunlai lay motionless in his bed, staring at the ceiling. His doctor had warned about his blood pressure, but how could a man's heart survive this kind of betrayal? 20 years. 20 years of sleeping beside a murderer. 20 years of mourning his daughter while she lived in exile, afraid and alone. Yetunde sat in a chair by his bedside, holding his wrinkled hand. She'd spent the last 72 hours here, making up for lost time, answering his endless questions about her life in Badagry, her education, her survival. Tell me again, Chief Ogunlai whispered, his voice hoarse from crying. Tell me about Uncle Musa, the man who saved you. Yetunde smiled softly, the first genuine warmth she'd shown since returning. He was a fisherman, Papa. Simple, kind, God-fearing. That night, he was checking his nets near the bridge when he heard a splash. He saw Folake's car speeding away and found me struggling in the water. I was barely conscious, choking, terrified. He pulled me into his boat and took me to his small house in Badagry. Why didn't he go to the police immediately? Chief Ogunlai asked, the same question he'd repeated a dozen times, still unable to comprehend it. He wanted to, Papa. But I was traumatized. I couldn't speak for 2 weeks. When I finally told him what happened, he went to Badagry police station. But they dismissed him. A poor fisherman accusing a rich Lagos society woman? They laughed at him. They said I probably ran away and made up the story. Uncle Musa realized that without evidence, without power, no one would believe us. So he made a decision. He would keep me safe, raise me as his own, and help me gather proof until I was strong enough to face her. He sounds like a saint, Chief Ogunlai murmured. He was my father when I had no one else, Yetunde said, her voice thick with emotion. He sold his boat to pay for my secondary school. He worked 3 jobs so I could attend university. When I got a scholarship to study software engineering in Ghana, he cried with joy. Every success I achieved was because of him. He passed away 6 months ago, Papa. Heart attack. His last words to me were, now you're strong enough. Go home. Get justice for yourself and your mother. Chief Ogunlai wept openly. I want to visit his grave. I want to thank him, even if he can't hear me. We will, Papa. Together. Scene shift. Folake in custody. Across Lagos at the Ikoyi police station's detention facility, Folake sat in a holding cell that smelled of disinfectant and desperation. Her designer clothes had been replaced with a plain prison uniform. Her perfectly styled hair hung limp and unwashed. The woman who once hosted charity galas and appeared in society magazines now shared space with petty thieves and fraudsters. Her lawyer, Mr. Deli Williams, sat across from her in the visitor's room, his expression grim. They have everything, Folake, he said bluntly. The mechanic's testimony about your mother's car. Uncle Musa's witness statement about seeing you push Yetunde from the bridge. The physical evidence, Your fingerprints on Yetunde's clothes from that night. 3 independent witnesses who saw your vehicle on 3rd Mainland Bridge. Bank records showing the 2 million naira payment to the mechanic. This isn't a case we can win. This is damage control. Then control the damage. Folake hissed. That's what I pay you for. Discredit the witnesses. Say the evidence was tampered with. Say that girl is lying for inheritance money. She's already publicly stated she doesn't want any inheritance, Mr. Williams reminded her. She owns a successful tech company in Ghana, Yetunde Digital Solutions. She's worth millions in her own right. The greed angle won't work. Folake's hands balled into fists. Then what do you suggest? Plea bargain, he said quietly. Confess to the attempted murder of Yetunde, express remorse, and they might reduce the sentence. If you fight this and they prove both murders, you're looking at life imprisonment, maybe even death penalty for premeditated murder. I am not confessing to anything. Folake stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the concrete floor. Do you know what prison will do to me? Do you know what those women will do to someone like me in there? Then you should have thought about that before you murdered your husband's wife and tried to murder his daughter, Mr. Williams said coldly. He'd initially taken this case for the publicity, but the evidence had turned his stomach. I can't help someone who won't help herself. After he left, Folake was escorted back to her cell. Her cellmate, a woman named Blessing arrested for armed robbery, watched her with calculating eyes. Rich woman like you, Blessing said. You must have enemies celebrating your downfall right now. I hear your own daughter hasn't even visited you. Folake's jaw tightened. Zainab. Her daughter hadn't answered a single call, hadn't visited once. The betrayal cut deeper than any prison cell. Scene shift. Yetunde and Zainab's first real conversation. In the mansion's garden, surrounded by blooming hibiscus flowers, Yetunde and Zainab sat on opposite ends of a wooden bench. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawn. This was their first private conversation since the DNA results. I don't know what to say to you, Zainab began, her voice barely above a whisper. Part of me wants to hate you for destroying my family. But another part of me knows you're the victim here, not the villain. Your mother destroyed this family long before I returned, Yetunde said gently. I didn't create these lies, I just exposed them. She wasn't always cruel, Zainab defended weakly. To me, she was loving, protective. She gave me everything, education, opportunities, love. How can that same woman be a monster? Because people are complicated, Yetunde replied. She could love you genuinely while being evil to others. My question is, what kind of person do you want to be? Will you let her sins define you, or will you choose your own path? Zainab was silent for a long moment. I keep thinking about my childhood. All those times Mama warned me about gold diggers and fake relatives who might come for Papa's money. She was preparing me to reject you if you ever returned. She was always 3 steps ahead. She underestimated how much evidence Uncle Musa would collect, Yetunde said. And she underestimated that I didn't want revenge through violence. I wanted it through truth. What happens now? Zainab asked. To Papa? To me? To us? That's up to you, Yetunde said honestly. Papa needs both of us. He's heartbroken and fragile. I don't want to replace you in his life. I want to rebuild my relationship with him while you maintain yours. We can be sisters, Zainab. If you're willing. Zainab looked at Yetunde, really looked at her, for the first time. This woman had every reason to hate the Ogunlai family, to burn everything down out of spite. Instead, she'd returned with evidence, with truth, with a desire for justice rather than destruction. I need time, Zainab finally said. But I'm willing to try. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying this story of revenge and redemption, please hit that like button and subscribe to Stories by Stoner. What do you think? Can Yetunde and Zainab truly become sisters? Comment below. Now, let's see what happens next. That evening, as Yetunde prepared for bed in her childhood room, now redecorated but still hers, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She answered cautiously. Yetunde Ogunlai, a woman's voice asked. Yes. Who is this? My name is Dr. Ngozi Okafor. I was your mother's best friend. We need to meet immediately. There's something about your mother's death that even you don't know. Something that will change everything you think you understand about Folake's crimes. The line went dead. The Java Cafe in Victoria Island was crowded with Lagos's young professionals. Laptop warriors sipping overpriced lattes, their faces glowing in the light of their screens. Yetunde arrived 30 minutes early, choosing a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. Uncle Musa had taught her to always control her environment, especially when meeting strangers with dangerous information. Dr. Ngozi Okafor walked in at exactly 6 p.m. She was in her late 50s, elegant in a navy blue pencil skirt and white blouse, her natural gray hair cut short and stylish. Her eyes scanned the cafe with the precision of someone accustomed to assessing situations quickly, a surgeon's eyes. Yetunde, she said, sliding into the seat across from her. You look exactly like Oluwaseun. It's like seeing a ghost. You knew my mother well? Yetunde asked, studying the woman carefully. We were roommates at the University of Lagos. Best friends for 15 years before she died. I was supposed to be her maid of honor at her wedding to your father, but I was in London completing my medical residency. Dr. Ngozi's voice carried genuine grief. When I heard about her accident, I flew back immediately. Something about it never sat right with me. The brakes were tampered with, Yetunde said directly. I have proof. Folake paid a mechanic to sabotage Mama's car. Dr. Ngozi nodded slowly. I suspected as much. But there's more, Yetunde. Much more. She pulled out a worn leather journal from her handbag and placed it on the table between them. This belonged to your mother. She gave it to me 3 weeks before she died, made me promise to keep it safe. She said if anything ever happened to her, I should give this to you when you were old enough to understand. Yetunde's hands trembled as she reached for the journal. The cover was soft brown leather, the pages yellowed with age. She opened it carefully, and her mother's handwriting, elegant, flowing, leaped off the page. September 1st, 2004. I'm writing this because I'm afraid. Folake is not who Bio Dunn thinks she is. I've been investigating her background, and what I've discovered terrifies me. Read it later in private, Dr. Ngozi advised. But I'll summarize what your mother uncovered. Folake Ogunlai isn't her real name. Yetunde's head snapped up. What? Her real name is Folake Obasanjo, no relation to the famous political family. She was born in Ibadan to a poor family, dropped out of secondary school, and worked as a housemaid for various wealthy families. In 1998, she was arrested for stealing from her employer, but the charges were mysteriously dropped. In 2001, she was employed as a maid by a wealthy businessman named Chief Rufus Oladipo in Port Harcourt. Dr. Ngozi paused, her expression darkening. Chief Oladipo died 6 months after hiring her. Sudden heart attack. His wife died 3 months later. Car accident, brakes failed. Their only son, who would have inherited everything, died a month after that. Fell down the stairs, broke his neck. Folake disappeared with over 50 million naira from their accounts before the extended family could investigate. Yetunde felt ice water run through her veins. She's done this before. Multiple times, Dr. Ngozi confirmed. Your mother discovered that Folake had worked for at least 3 wealthy families between 1998 and 2004. In every case, family members died under suspicious circumstances, and Folake disappeared with money or valuables. She's a professional black widow, Yetunde. She targets wealthy men, infiltrates their families, eliminates obstacles, and takes what she wants. How did my mother find all this out? Oluwaseun noticed that Folake had no verifiable employment history before joining Biodun's company. No references, no previous employer contacts, just a fabricated resume. Your mother hired a private investigator. Everything I'm telling you is in that journal, along with the investigator's full report. Your mother planned to expose Folake and have her arrested. But Folake found out, Yetunde whispered, the pieces falling into place. The investigator's office was broken into 2 weeks before your mother died. Files were stolen. The investigator himself disappeared, never seen again. Your mother knew she was in danger. That's when she gave me this journal and made me promise to protect it. She said if anything happened to her, the truth had to survive. 3 weeks later, she was dead. Yetunde's grief transformed into something harder, colder. Why didn't you go to the police? I tried, Dr. Ngozi said bitterly. But Folake was already Mrs. Ogunleye by then, protected by your father's wealth and influence. The police dismissed me as a jealous friend making unfounded accusations. I had no proof, the investigator's files were gone, and this journal alone wasn't enough. So I waited. I waited for you to grow up, to come home, to be strong enough to finish what your mother started. Yetunde clutched the journal to her chest. There are other families. Other victims. At least 3 that we know of, Dr. Ngozi confirmed. I've spent 20 years tracking them down, gathering evidence. Some families are too ashamed to speak publicly. Having a relative murdered by the help is seen as embarrassing in our society. But I have witness statements, police reports that were buried, financial records. Everything you need to prove Folake is a serial killer, not just a woman who committed crimes of passion. This changes the entire case, Yetunde said, her mind racing. This isn't just about my mother and me. This is about multiple murders across multiple states. This is a federal crime. Exactly. And it means Folake will never see freedom again. Dr. Ngozi's voice held grim satisfaction. I've already contacted Inspector Taiwo and shared copies of everything with her. She's bringing in the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and the Nigeria Police Force Criminal Investigation Department. They're building a case that will destroy Folake completely. Yetunde looked down at her mother's journal, tears blurring the words on the page. Mama knew she was going to die. She prepared for it. She made sure the truth would survive even if she didn't. Your mother was the bravest woman I ever knew, Dr. Ngozi said softly. And you are exactly like her. She would be so proud of the woman you've become. Scene shift. Folake learns the truth. Back at the detention facility, Folake received an unexpected visitor. Her lawyer, Mr. Deli Williams, accompanied by Inspector Taiwo and 2 federal investigators. What's this about? Folake demanded, fear creeping into her voice. Inspector Taiwo smiled, a predator's smile. Mrs. Ogunleye, or should I say, Miss Folake Obasanjo. We need to discuss Chief Rufus Oladipo, his wife, his son, and several other unfortunate deaths that seem to follow you wherever you go. The blood drained from Folake's face. You thought you were clever, changing your name, moving between cities, covering your tracks, Inspector Taiwo continued. But you left a trail of bodies, Mrs. Obasanjo. And now we've connected every single one to you. Folake's world collapsed in that moment. She wasn't just facing charges for Oluwaseun and Yetunde, she was facing charges for a decades-long killing spree. I want to make a deal, she whispered desperately. There are no deals for serial killers, Inspector Taiwo said coldly. The only question now is whether you'll hang or spend the rest of your miserable life in prison. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. Folake is a serial killer. How many more victims are out there? What do you think should happen to her? Comment below. The Ogunleye family conference room had been transformed into a war room. Large monitors displayed evidence folders, timelines, photographs of Folake's previous victims, and financial records spanning 2 decades. Yetunde stood at the head of the mahogany table, a laser pointer in her hand, addressing a room full of lawyers, investigators, and family members of Folake's victims. Inspector Taiwo sat to her right, along with 2 federal prosecutors. Dr. Ngozi sat beside Chief Ogunleye, who looked older but more alert than he had in days. Fury had given him new purpose. Zainab occupied a corner seat, her face pale but determined. She'd chosen her side. "Ladies and gentlemen," Yetunde began, her voice steady and commanding, "what we're dealing with isn't just a woman who committed 2 crimes. Folake Obasanjo is a serial predator who has systematically murdered at least 9 people across 4 Nigerian states over 15 years. She clicked the remote, and the first victim's photo appeared on screen. Chief Rufus Oladipo, Port Harcourt, 2001. Died of sudden heart attack 6 months after hiring Folake as domestic staff. Autopsy report, which was conveniently buried, showed traces of digitalis poisoning, a plant-based toxin that mimics heart attack symptoms. Click. Another photo. Mrs. Helen Oladipo, the chief's wife. Died 3 months later in a car accident. Her mechanic, who disappeared shortly after, told his sister before vanishing that someone paid him to tamper with her brakes. That sister is here today. Yetunde gestured to a nervous woman in her 40s sitting in the back row. Click. Their son, Michael Oladipo, 23 years old, fell down the stairs and broke his neck. The housemaid who found him, also here today, says Folake was the only other person in the house at the time, and she heard arguing before the fall. The room was silent except for the sound of pen on paper as the prosecutors took notes. The pattern repeats, Yetunde continued, clicking through more photos. 2002. Enugu. Mr. and Mrs. Nwosu, wealthy textile merchants. Both died within 4 months of hiring Folake. 2003. Kano. Alhaji Ibrahim Musa and his first wife. Same pattern. 2004. Lagos. My mother, Oluwaseun Ogunleye. And then me, but I survived. She paused, letting the weight of the evidence settle over the room. Folake targets wealthy men, usually widowers or men in troubled marriages. She presents herself as humble, loyal, indispensable. She learns the family's secrets, their vulnerabilities. Then she eliminates anyone standing between her and the fortune. Wives, children, extended family members who might ask questions. She's stolen over 300 million naira across these cases, and that's only what we can trace. One of the federal prosecutors, Mrs. Olabisi Okonkwo, leaned forward. "Miss Ogunleye, this evidence is compelling, but most of these deaths were ruled accidental or natural. Getting convictions on 20-year-old cases will be extremely difficult. That's why we're not relying solely on old evidence," Inspector Taiwo interjected. "We've been building new evidence. Folake has been in custody for 1 week. In that time, we've executed search warrants on her personal properties, the ones Chief Ogunleye didn't even know she owned." She pulled out a file and slid photographs across the table. "We found 4 different passports with 4 different names. Bank accounts in Ghana, Benin Republic, and South Africa containing over 120 million naira. Property deeds for houses in Abuja and Port Harcourt purchased under false identities. And most damning, a laptop with detailed files on at least 6 other wealthy men she was researching as potential future targets." Chief Ogunleye gasped. "She was planning to leave me? To kill me and move on?" "Yes, Papa," Yetunde said gently. "We found a file with your name. It contains copies of your will, your medical records, and research on untraceable poisons." She was waiting for the right moment. The old man's hands shook with rage and horror. Zainab spoke for the first time, her voice small but clear. "There's something else. Something I need to tell you all." Every head turned toward her. 3 months ago, Mama asked me to get Papa to sign some documents. She said they were routine business papers. I trusted her, so I didn't read them carefully. I just told Papa they were standard annual reports and he signed them. "What were they?" Inspector Taiwo asked sharply. "Transfer of property deeds," Zainab whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't realize it until I went through Papa's files this week. Those documents transferred 3 of his most valuable properties into Mama's name alone. If Papa had died, She would have owned them outright, no questions asked. Zainab, why didn't you tell us immediately? Chief Ogunlai's voice was more sad than angry. Because I was ashamed. Zainab cried. Because I helped her without knowing. Because I was her tool, her weapon, just like everyone else. I'm so sorry, Papa. I'm so sorry, Yetunde. Yetunde moved around the table and placed a hand on her half-sister's shoulder. You were manipulated. Just like all of us. That's what she does. She makes good people complicit in her evil without them even knowing. Folake's interrogation. In the interrogation room at the Police Criminal Investigation Department headquarters, Folake sat across from two federal investigators. She'd lost weight in the past week. Her expensive beauty treatments were fading, revealing the hard edges beneath her cultivated elegance. We know everything, Folake, Detective Superintendent James said, sliding a thick file across the table. Every identity you've used. Every family you've destroyed. Every naira you've stolen. You can make this easier on yourself by cooperating. I want immunity, Folake said flatly. Full immunity in exchange for information. Information about what? Detective Superintendent Necker asked. You think I worked alone? Folake laughed bitterly. You think a girl from Ibadan with secondary school education could forge documents, move money internationally, create false identities without help? I had partners. People who provided services for a percentage of what I stole. The detectives exchanged glances. This was bigger than they'd thought. Keep talking, James said. There's a network, Folake continued. Document forgers, corrupt bank officials, lawyers who create shell companies, even police officers who bury investigations for the right price. They service people like me, people who need to disappear, to reinvent themselves, to move stolen money. I can give you names, locations, bank account numbers. But I want immunity from the death penalty. You murdered 9 people that we know of. 13. Folake shouted. 13 people. And I can give you 20 other killers who've used the same network. Women, mostly. Housemaids, secretaries, mistresses who've murdered their way to wealth. You want to catch me? Fine. But I can help you catch dozens more. The interrogation room fell silent. We'll bring this to the Attorney General, Necker finally said. But understand this, even if you avoid execution, you will never see freedom again. Life imprisonment. Minimum. That's the best you can hope for. Folake nodded slowly. I know. Scene shift. Yetunde's private moment. Late that night, Yetunde sat alone in her childhood bedroom, her mother's journal open in her lap. She'd been reading for hours, tears flowing freely as her mother's voice spoke to her across 20 years of silence. My darling Yetunde, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. But I need you to know that I fought. I fought to protect you and your father. I fought to expose evil. And even if I lost, even if she won, the truth will survive in these pages. You are stronger than you know, my daughter. You have my intelligence, your father's determination, and a spirit that cannot be broken. Whatever happens to me, promise me you'll live a full, beautiful life. Don't let hate consume you. Don't let revenge destroy the goodness in your heart. But also don't let evil go unpunished. Justice isn't cruelty, it's balance. It's protection for future victims. If you have the power to stop someone like Folake, you have the responsibility to do so. I love you more than words can express. Be brave, my precious girl. Be brave, and be good. Yetunde closed the journal and held it against her chest, sobbing. Uncle Musa had saved her life, raised her with love, given her strength. But her mother had given her purpose. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about protecting future victims, about honoring her mother's final fight, about ensuring that no other child would be pushed into a river while a murderer walked free. Her phone buzzed. A text from Inspector Taiwo. Folake is cooperating. This is bigger than we imagined. Tomorrow, press conference. Are you ready? Yetunde wiped her tears and typed back, I was born ready. We're getting close to the end, and things are heating up. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Stories by Stoner, and share with your friends. What do you think? Should Folake get immunity to catch other killers, or should she face the death penalty? Drop your opinion in the comments. Now, let's continue. The next morning, as Yetunde prepared for the press conference that would expose Folake's crimes to the entire nation, her phone rang. Unknown number. Again. She answered cautiously. Hello. A man's voice, distorted and threatening. Drop the case against Folake Obasanjo, or your father dies. You have 24 hours. The line went dead. Yetunde's blood ran cold. The network Folake had mentioned, they were real, and they were coming for her family. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. Who's threatening Yetunde, and will she back down to save her father? Comment your thoughts below. Papa. Yetunde's scream echoed through the Ogunlai mansion as she burst into her father's bedroom. Inspector Taiwo and 4 armed officers right behind her. The room was empty. The wheelchair sat abandoned by the window. The medical monitors beeped uselessly, their wires disconnected and hanging loose. Chief Biodun Ogunlai was gone. Search every room. Lock down the compound. Nobody leaves. Inspector Taiwo barked into her radio. We have a kidnapping situation. Repeat, Chief Ogunlai has been taken. Zainab ran in, her face stricken with terror. The security guards, they're unconscious. Someone drugged them. The CCTV footage has been erased. Yetunde's phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. We have your father. Press conference is in 2 hours. Cancel it, or he dies. Tell the police to release Folake, or he dies. You have 1 hour to decide. They want Folake released, Yetunde said, her voice remarkably calm despite the fear coursing through her veins. Uncle Musa had taught her that panic was the enemy of survival. This network she mentioned, they're protecting their asset. We don't negotiate with criminals, Inspector Taiwo said firmly, but her eyes showed concern. If we release Folake, she disappears forever, and this network continues operating. But if we don't, Papa dies, Zainab finished, her voice breaking. Yetunde, please. He's already lost Mama. He just got you back. We can't lose him now. Yetunde's mind raced. 20 years of planning, 20 years of evidence gathering, 20 years of waiting for justice, and now it all came down to an impossible choice. Her father's life or her mother's justice. I need to see Folake, Yetunde said suddenly. Right now. That's exactly what they want, Inspector Taiwo began. Trust me, Yetunde interrupted, her eyes hard as diamonds. I have a plan. But I need to speak to Folake face to face. Alone. Scene shift. The prison meeting. 30 minutes later, Yetunde sat across from Folake in a private interrogation room. No cameras, no recording devices. Just 2 women and 20 years of hatred between them. Folake looked different. Prison had stripped away her polish, revealing something raw and desperate underneath. But her eyes still held that calculating gleam. They took my father, Yetunde said without preamble. Your network. The people you've been cooperating with. I warned the investigators, Folake said quietly. I told them this network doesn't like loose ends. You should have left well enough alone, Yetunde. You should have taken your father and disappeared. You tried to murder me. You murdered my mother. You expect me to just walk away. I expect you to be smart. Folake snapped. These people don't play games. They'll kill Biodun without hesitation. They've killed dozens to protect their operation. What's one more old man? Then help me save him. Yetunde leaned forward. You know these people. You know how they think. Help me get my father back. Folake laughed. A bitter, broken sound. Why would I help you? You destroyed my life. Because Zainab is out there, Terrified she's about to lose another parent, Yetunde said softly. Because somewhere underneath all your evil, there might be a small piece of you that actually loves your daughter. And if Papa dies, Zainab will never forgive you. She'll have nothing, no mother, no father, just the legacy of a serial killer. Something flickered in Folake's eyes. Pain. Regret. It was hard to tell. What do you want from me? Folake finally asked. Information. How does the network operate? Who's in charge? Where would they take Papa? Folake was silent for a long moment, weighing her options. There's a man, she finally said. Mr. Emmanuel. That's not his real name. Nobody knows his real name. He runs the network. Document forging, money laundering, evidence disposal, witness elimination. If you want something illegal done in Lagos, you go to Mr. Emmanuel. Where do I find him? You don't find him. He finds you. But there's a contact point, a restaurant in Acadia called the Golden Spoon. The owner, Mrs. Patience, she's the middleman. You leave a message with her, Mr. Emmanuel contacts you. And where would they take Papa? There's a warehouse in Apapa, Folake continued, her voice mechanical, detached. Near the port. They use it for negotiations. That's probably where Bio Dunn is. Yetunde stood to leave, but Folake's voice stopped her. Yetunde. The way she said the name, soft, almost human, made Yetunde turn back. I did love your father, you know. In my own twisted way. He was different from the others. He was kind. I almost stopped after I married him. Almost. But the greed. It's like a disease. You can never have enough. That's not love, Yetunde said coldly. Love doesn't murder. Love doesn't destroy. What you feel is possession, not love. Maybe you're right, Folake whispered. Tell Zainab. Tell her I'm sorry. For everything. Tell her yourself, Yetunde replied. If we survive this. 2 hours later, the Apapa warehouse was surrounded by tactical police units. Inspector Taiwo coordinated from a mobile command center, her face grim as she listened to reports through her headset. Thermal imaging confirms 3 heat signatures inside, a tactical officer reported. 1 appears to be restrained, likely the hostage. 2 others are mobile, probably armed. Rules of engagement? Another officer asked. Hostage safety is priority 1, Inspector Taiwo said. But if they threaten Chief Ogunlai's life, you are authorized to use lethal force. Yetunde stood beside the command vehicle, wearing a bulletproof vest that felt too heavy and too light at the same time. Zainab was beside her, against everyone's advice, refusing to leave. You should wait at the station, Yetunde said gently to her half-sister. He's my father too, Zainab replied firmly. I'm not leaving. Inspector Taiwo's radio crackled. Ma'am, we have movement. The kidnappers are bringing the hostage outside. They're using him as a shield. Through binoculars, Yetunde could see them. 2 masked men dragging Chief Ogunlai between them. The old man looked weak but alive, his face bruised but defiant. Release Folake Obasanjo. One of the kidnappers shouted through a megaphone. Release her now, or the old man dies. We don't negotiate with terrorists. Inspector Taiwo's voice boomed through police speakers. Then he dies. The kidnapper pressed a gun against Chief Ogunlai's temple. Wait. Yetunde grabbed the megaphone from Inspector Taiwo's hands. Wait. I'll do it. I'll drop the charges. I'll tell the media it was all a misunderstanding. Just don't hurt him. Yetunde, no. Inspector Taiwo tried to grab the megaphone back, but Yetunde stepped away. I'm calling the prosecutors right now. Yetunde continued, pulling out her phone. I'm dropping everything. Just let him go. The kidnappers exchanged glances, uncertain. This was too easy. Show us, one of them shouted. Make the call where we can see you. Yetunde walked forward, slowly, hands raised, phone visible. She stopped 20 meters from the kidnappers, just within shouting distance. "I'm dialing now," she called out, and began pressing numbers on her phone. But she wasn't calling prosecutors. She was activating the tracking app she'd hidden in her father's wheelchair earlier that week, a precaution she'd taken after receiving the first threat. The app sent a signal that would jam the kidnappers' communication devices for exactly 30 seconds. The moment their radios went dead, chaos erupted. Tactical officers emerged from hiding positions. Snipers took aim. The kidnappers panicked, and in that panic, one of them made a fatal mistake. He moved the gun away from Chief Ogunlai's head to aim at the approaching officers. 2 shots rang out. Both kidnappers dropped, non-lethal shots to the shoulders and legs. Chief Ogunlai collapsed, and officers rushed forward to secure him. Papa. Yetunde and Zainab ran forward together, reaching their father as paramedics rushed in. "I'm okay," Chief Ogunlai gasped, his voice weak but steady. "I knew you'd come. I knew my daughters would save me. My daughters. Both of them. Together." Scene shift. The press conference. 3 days later. The Lagos State Government Press Center was packed with journalists from across Nigeria and international media outlets. Cameras flashed as Yetunde stepped up to the podium, flanked by Inspector Taiwo, federal prosecutors, and families of Folake's other victims. "Good afternoon," Yetunde began, her voice clear and strong. "My name is Yetunde Ogunlai. 20 years ago, my stepmother Folake Obasanjo pushed me into the Lagos Lagoon and left me for dead. I survived. Today, I'm here to ensure that no one else has to." She outlined everything: the murders, the network, the kidnapping, the rescue. She named names, showed evidence, and demanded justice not just for herself but for all victims of this criminal enterprise. Folake Obasanjo will face trial for 13 counts of murder, Yetunde concluded. The network she worked with is being dismantled as I speak. 23 arrests have been made, including corrupt officials, document forgers, and hired killers. This ends today. The room erupted in questions, but Yetunde raised her hand for silence. "I also want to say something to my family. To my father, Chief Biodun Ogunlai, thank you for loving me, even when I was lost to you. To my sister, Zainab, thank you for choosing truth over comfort, family over fear. We are survivors. We are fighters. And we will honor Mama's memory by living lives full of purpose, justice, and love." Beside her, Zainab squeezed her hand. Chief Ogunlai, watching from the front row in his wheelchair, wept openly. Epilogue. 6 months later. The courtroom was packed for the verdict. Folake Obasanjo stood as the judge read the sentence. Life imprisonment without the possibility of parole on all 13 counts of murder. Additionally, restitution of all stolen assets to victims' families. Folake showed no emotion. She'd already said everything she needed to say. Outside the courthouse, Yetunde and Zainab stood together, facing a sea of reporters and cameras. "How does it feel?" one journalist shouted. "To finally get justice?" "It feels like I can breathe again," Yetunde answered honestly. "Like I can honor my mother's memory without carrying the weight of unfinished business." "What's next for you?" another asked. "I'm establishing the Oluwaseun Ogunlai Foundation," Yetunde announced. "It will provide legal support, counseling, and protection for domestic abuse survivors and families of crime victims. No one should have to fight for justice alone the way I did. And I'll be working alongside her," Zainab added, her voice confident. "We're using Papa's resources to make sure other families get the support they need. That's how we honor both our mother and the parents we almost lost." As they walked away from the courthouse, Yetunde felt something she hadn't felt in 20 years. Peace. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of purpose. Her mother's journal sat safely in her bag, its pages now a roadmap for helping others. Uncle Musa had saved her life. Her mother had given her truth. And now, she would spend the rest of her days making sure that evil like Folake's never went unpunished again. "Ready to go home, sister?" Zainab asked. Yetunde smiled, a real smile, warm and genuine. Yes. Let's go home. Thank you so much for watching this incredible journey of revenge, justice, and redemption on Stories by Stoner. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends and family. What did you think of Yetunde's story? Would you have done things differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next emotional story. Until next time, stay blessed, stay strong, and remember, the truth always finds its way to the light. This is Stories by Stoner, signing off. See you in the next story.